everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Tuesday, March 8th. I hope you're having a really good day. I'm so glad that so many of you have checked out my video about the dance group 7M. This story is starting to go viral and we are going to continue our coverage. And if you haven't yet followed me over on Instagram, make sure you do. I've been doing lives there and there's lots and lots of people that are involved in this story on my page, commenting, sharing. It's just a way for you to get more invested or learn more as I'm doing my research. And then what I'm going to be doing here is bringing over content that's more polished and more organized so that it's easier for people who haven't been following my Instagram. Hope that makes sense. But in the middle of all of that, we have stuff going on with the Duggar family. And I told you about this last week, that the transcripts for Josh Duggar's hearing in November on the 30th were released. And we talked about how Jim Bob Duggar had a really contentious dispute with the court over testimony about his son. He claimed ignorance and acted like he could not remember what happened in 2002 and 2003. During his testimony, he was very defiant. He couldn't remember. He said that, he was so glad that Josh came to him and told him and confessed to him. One of the Duggars' talking points is that without Josh confessing to them about what happened, they would have had no idea what was going on.
Right? They didn't know, because at that point now, nobody knew about it, and besides Michelle and I and Josh. And so we thought, what do we do with this information? And the girls, we talked to them, and they didn't know that anything had happened because they were asleep.
Unfortunately, the truth is always stranger than fiction, because that's actually not the case. In fact, in testimony given by Bobby Holt in court, in sworn testimony at the November 30th hearing, she testified that it was not Josh that alerted the parents about what was going on. Instead, it was Jill Duggar.
He came to us and was crying and told us what happened. And
so I have been going through these transcripts point by point, trying to make sure that I find points in here that I think will be helpful for you. And it's interesting because there's some pretty significant discrepancies between Bobby Holt's account of what happened and the Duggars. On Megyn Kelly, they said that it was between 2002 and 2003, but she alleged, Bobby Holt, that everything that Josh was doing was occurring for 3 total years, between the years 2000 and 2003, and that he was doing all the same things to all the girls. And it was one particular incident with Jane Doe number 4 that resulted in a huge meeting with them, Bobby and Jim, at their home, where Josh was told that he had to confess what he had done.
We asked some very close friends if they could come over, and some of my best friends came over. We talked about it, and so at that point we pulled Josh out of the home.
So the biggest thing was that they said Josh came to us and confessed, but Bobby shared a conversation that she had with Josh during the time this was all going on and when he was trying to work through his issues. She specifically asked about things that would have happened to Jane Doe 1, and this is Jill Duggar. So Jane Doe 1 is Jill, and the biggest thing that we've learned about Jill is that it wasn't Josh that came forward, it was Jill. So this is what the testimony says. So the question is, did he tell you if he had disclosed this to his parents before? And she said yes. And then she said, can you tell me about that? And she said, in February of 2002, he had touched Jane Doe number 1. And she went and told her parents what he had done. And then he told them. And then he confessed, I guess, to them. And then after this process, he continued. So he confesses in February of 2002 after he tries to do something to Jill. And Jill goes to her parents and says, listen, this is what Josh is doing to me and this isn't cool. And it was only after that that Josh confessed to his parents. So I really do think it's interesting how the Duggars will clearly rewrite history that Josh willingly came to them and confessed as though it was his heart. They had still had his heart. He wasn't that bad. But he didn't want his parents to know, because in another conversation that she had with him, further described what happened in this altercation with Jill. And it was that Jill actually hit him and snitched on him. So this is what Carly Marshall asked Bobby Holt. Did Josh Duggar tell you what he did? Did Josh Duggar tell you, or what did Josh Duggar tell you that Jane Doe one did in regards to disclosing the SC that he had done against her. Bobby Holt responded, he said that he went to her as she was sleeping and that he was going to go underneath her blanket to start to touch her, and that she woke up and hit him. And then she said, and then Carly Marshall said, what did he say in regards? I think earlier you stated that Jane Doe 1 had disclosed this information to his parents. Is that correct? And Bobby Holt said, yes. Did he confirm that she had done that? And she said, yes. He told me that she snitched on him. So Jim, when he's talking to Bobby in March of 2005 or in 2005, Josh is telling Bobby, she snitched on me. She snitched on me. You know, this takes me back to the very first, when Jill got married. Remember All About Jill? And he said that, you know, she was the one that would always, you know, tell mom and dad what he was doing, and he would usually get in trouble for it. He's called her like a tattletale. Isn't it weird that Jill was the tattletale because she alerted her parents about what he did to her and she snitched on him? That means there's got to be some sort of like code of silence. And I think one of the things that the IBLP teaches around this is to never bear a false report. So don't speak ill about the people that are around you. Don't give a negative report to anyone about the person that's, you know, you're having problems with. Instead, you know, pray for them, or, you know, cry out to them, or, you know, you can confront them. And then if you confront them and only then they still keep doing it, then you go to your parents for help. In her case, she socks him in the face, or I'm assuming, and then goes to her parents, and then he accuses her of snitching. And then this is February of 2002. He continues to do what he does. It doesn't change his behavior. It doesn't change anything. And it's not until March of 2003 when he takes the step to be very brazen and do something to Joanna while she was sitting on his lap during Bible time. It's pretty disturbing to me that the Duggars will put out a narrative that Josh is the one that confessed, but they won't say my daughters told me. Because when they said on Megyn Kelly, they said that they had no clue. They even made their daughters say they had no clue. They made their daughters say they had no memory, they didn't recall, they didn't really know, that it was always when they were asleep, and that their parents had to tell them what happened to them. But clearly Jill knew what happened to her because she woke up, she punched him, and she talked to her parents. So that means Jill did remember. It means she was coached to lie, at least in my opinion, and defend Josh on national television for the sake of her family's show, so that her parents could continue to bankroll their family name and put all of the secrets of what happened to them behind them. The most important part to me in this entire story is the complete and utter disregard of the Duggars to anyone that Josh hurts. It is never about whether or not the daughters are hurting, whether or not the daughters needed help. It's never about the daughters. It's always about Josh. Well, at least he confessed. We still had his heart. And today we still love him. We don't agree with it, but we still love him. Meanwhile, Jill Duggar has been exiled and shunned from the family, and she's been labeled dangerous by her father. Because why? Because she asked questions and dared to ask questions. In fact, in 2017, a source told me that Jill confronted her father about what happened, and he didn't like it, didn't want to hear about it. Apparently, Jill also sought out other people that were around during that period and asked them questions about what happened to fill in the dot, like the spaces of her memory that she couldn't remember. And as she started remembering and recalling everything that happened in the totality of her life and the issues of not getting paid and pushing back on her father and demanded answers, instead of giving her answers, he shunned her. And he cut off contact with her and her family members. He won't allow her over to the house. He won't allow her to speak to her mother unless he gives permission. He controls everyone's access to anyone. That's like the definition of a cult leader. So even though the Duggars are in an IBLP, is Jim Bob Duggar running his own cult in the Duggar house? As the patriarch, is he the patriarchal cult leader of the Duggar family? And what does it say about a father that instead of helping the daughter, you spend your entire life trying to save your son and protect him so that you can make money while also hanging your girls out to dry on national television? It's pretty disgusting. I am so glad the Duggars have been canceled. And it's really sad that in 2022 or 2021, when the trial happened, the women had to revisit what happened to them, and the world had to find out this way. Just think if the Duggars would have handled this and if Josh would have pled guilty, we wouldn't have any of this information. Josh hurt his sisters again by putting them through this trial and by having this testimony out there now on public record. He hurt them that way. So now, is it really the media's fault, or is it Josh's fault, or the Duggars' fault, or is it both, the Josh and the Duggars? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.